You started out, I know that you were at Vermont doing stuff, right? Just kind of tell me how you got in with them.
Yeah, so I did 2 years of I was the radio broadcaster for University of Vermont for 2 seasons. So I graduated from Syracuse in 2018, and then I heard of the opening for the Vermont radio job. The guy who had it before me was 2 years older than me from Syracuse. I heard he was leaving.
Mhm.
So I sent in my demo reel and my resume to Vermont, had a phone interview with them the summer after I graduated. Unfortunately, it worked out and they picked me. And I
Yeah,
had an amazing 2 year run with them. There was a lot of fun just being immersed. You obviously can relate being on a team, just being part of a program
yeah,
is very special because you develop these unreal relationships with the players and the coaches.
100%. So going back a little bit to this is stuff I always like to get into because I usually talk to coaches and I'll ask them about like their paths and like the way they, networked because that's, let's be honest, that's literally that's how you get a job.
Right.
So you talked about the reel you had, obviously that's like your profile of work. Just kind of what did you have at that point in your reel, and then kind of how did you go about? I'm assuming you were sending it to multiple people. Just kind of talk about that situation.
Yeah, so when I was at Syracuse, I was fortunate to call basketball games and a few other sports, but basketball for this situation on student radio. Syracuse is a historic student radio station called
Okay.
WAER, and a lot of the big names in sports broadcasting, like Marv Albert, Ian Eagle, Mike Tirico, they all were there when they were students. You do home and road games for basketball for Syracuse, so
Yeah.
uh, in broadcasting, it's a little bit different in that you usually send an unedited stretch of a game. So the game I sent, I believe, was Syracuse, North Carolina, in the Carrier Dome
Hmm.
for student radio, and it was an awesome game. It was very close. Syracuse ended up losing, but I thought that was my best stretch of
Right.
play-by-play as a student. Uh, so it was really cool to be able to do a high caliber game like that as a student.
For sure.
And luckily, the Vermont people liked it too.
Yeah, no, that's sick. So obviously, were you sitting like courtside for those games, or like where were you at for this in the Carrier Dome?
Yeah, they gave us a courtside table, which is awesome. They treated us amazing, that was being able to do D1 ACC games for as
Yeah.
a student was one of the biggest things that appealed for me to go to Syracuse. I'm from Florida,
Right.
so that was an unreal experience. Especially they made the tournament that year. We went to the Sweet 16, going on a Cinderella run or whatever. Like
Yeah,
traveling to March Madness and going in the locker room
that's
and
nuts.
being credentialed is so much fun.
Yeah, who were some of those guys on the Syracuse team? I can't. Was that when they had like Cooney?
No, well, so they made the Final Four my sophomore year. That was Trevor Cooney. They were a
Okay,
10th seed.
and
And
Malachi.
Michael Benege and Malachi
Yeah.
Richardson, Tyler Lydon. When I was a senior 2 years later, the best player was Tyus Battle.
Yep.
They had Tyus Battle, Frank Howard, and the freshman was O'Shea Brissett.
Okay.
Uh,
Yep.
it was only a team that went 7, 8 guys deep. When we beat Michigan State, one of the walk-ons, Braden Baer, he came in and made like a big-time tie-up. I
Really?
guess you appreciate the walk-on
Oh,
shout out, I'm
100%.
sure.
That's my guy.
Yeah, so he was like their seventh guy off the bench. He was their seventh guy in the rotation in a tournament game against Michigan State. He ended up making like the winning play. It was awesome.
That's nuts. Okay, so how was it like watching that 2-3 zone? Did that ever get boring?
No, never boring. It's also always fun doing Syracuse games, let alone with Boeheim roaming the sidelines. So
Right.
it's really cool being able to do that.
Are you a Joe Girard fan?
Yeah, I mean, Joe Girard, obviously, he's proven he can get hot from three. Same with Buddy Boeheim. I know Syracuse has had some injury issues down low with Barama Sidibe. I like this Alan Griffin kid, too, the transfer from Illinois. So
Yeah.
they're still trying to figure things out. They lost to North Carolina. I don't know when this
Yeah.
will be airing, but on Tuesday night.
Right.
So I think they'll still have a good chance to make the tournament.
Yeah, Girard just a streaky shooter, but I mean, him in high school, he was a crazy high school player.
Yeah, I think he's from the Syracuse-ish area, too. I know he's from New York.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Okay, all right. So great time at Syracuse. Now, like you said, you got hired at Vermont. Just what were some of the best like memories you had there? Because obviously I think they were pretty good when you were there, right?
Yeah, my first year, fortunately, we made the NCAA tournament. You can relate in a one bid league like the Big South. The America East is the same exact thing.
Yep.
Nothing matters until the conference tournament because it's you win or you're in, and you lose, you're done.
Yeah.
So the backstory with my first year at Vermont is the previous year, I wasn't there yet. UMBC beat Vermont at the buzzer in the championship game. That got UMBC into the tournament to beat Virginia.
Yep.
So this next year, my first year there, it was a rematch in the title game. UMBC comes back to Patrick Jim to Burlington. Vermont was not losing to them again. They could not, after losing in the most dramatic fashion the year before.
Yeah.
Vermont beats them by 17, and everybody goes crazy. They storm the court. It's awesome.
That's a smaller gym, right? So I'm sure that atmosphere was crazy.
Yeah, Patrick Gym in Burlington, 3,266 is, I believe, the capacity. And the fun thing about Vermont is there's no pro teams aside from a minor league baseball team, but everybody cares about UVM basketball there because there's nothing else to root for on the professional level, you know?
Right. Yeah, and then obviously that tournament, who did they play? I know they played them.
We were a 13 seed. We played number 4 Florida State, tied at the half, lost by 7. I think FSU was much better than a 4 seed that year, so it was probably a tough draw. But it was still an unreal experience.
Like Florida State is the team that never gets like the credit they deserve.
Yeah, they make the second weekend every year, but they can never get over the hump to that Final Four. I think if the tournament didn't get canceled, they could have won the whole thing last year, but we'll see what happens.
They kind of remind me of a Michigan this year. Like no one really talked about it until now. Did you watch the Wisconsin game last night?
Unbelievable. We were fortunate to have Hunter Dickinson, the big man from Michigan, on our pod last week. Really nice kid. And again, no one's really talking about that. Everyone's talking about Gonzaga, but Michigan's undefeated. Same thing with Winthrop, of course. But I mean, they're definitely a team that could win it all.
Yeah, they went from I think ranked 9th, they're 3rd now, or maybe they were 7th. Yeah, they were.
I think they're top 5 or top 10. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, all right, you went to Vermont. Now, obviously, I'm really curious about your Barstool story. Like, obviously, that is one of the most popular brands, or companies in the world right now. How did you get that job? How did you get in with them?
So it was basically a lottery system. So I spent 2 years at Vermont. After my first year, I knew I'd always want to go back for year 2, but I had to kill time for the off season. College basketball off season 7 months long, so I got to do something in between the summers. So I'm from Florida. I'm a big Yankee fan. I drove up to Tampa. The Yankees were playing there, and I put on Part of My Take, the Barstool podcast, of course. And then Hank, the producer, he says, we need an intern for the summer. So I pull over on the highway, take my phone out. I already had my resume ready. I send him an email. Hey, I'm available to do this, blah, blah, blah. Anything you guys need. Then the day after, he responds saying, can you come in for an interview later this week? I say, sure. Now, keep in mind, this is in New York and I'm in Florida. So I had already coincidentally had a trip to New York that week to go to the PGA Championship just as a fan for fun. So I had to change my flight by a day or so. And then they had me in for an interview. And luckily, it all worked out. It had me in at first to be the intern, basically as Darren Ravel's rival. For those who don't go on Twitter or follow sports media, he's basically just this guy who tweets out geeky stuff, and they wanted me to basically try to cuck him on certain scoops and things like that. So that's how I got my foot in the door. And here we are, I guess, almost 2 years later.
So, okay, what was kind of, I know you were like an intern, for Pardon My Take. Like at first, when you got your foot in the door with them, what were some of the things you were doing? Obviously as an intern, you got to work your ass off. Like I'm sure you did. Just kind of tell me, like, how did you, gain their trust, and what are some things that they had you doing?
Yeah. So like I said, the Darren Ravel-ish role was how I started. And basically they gave me a Twitter account and I was just tweeting out these weird stats and numbers and goofy things. They enjoyed that. And then I also help out with the social media side, Twitter and sometimes Instagram, putting up tweets, tweeting out clips of the show. And then on the show, I would be basically their stat guy and tweeting out or helping out, looking up whatever they need.
Like you're in the studio with them and then they're doing it. And then if they need like a fact check, they'll just say, okay.
So I'm sitting over on the side with Billy Football, who's the intern, on the couch. And if you listen to the show, they'll be like, Jake, look up who went.
No, I've heard.
Yeah.
I mean, just give me some like because obviously I watch Pardon My Take. Like I think Big Cat and PMT are just hilarious. Just kind of like obviously you sit in there with them while they do it. Just like talk about that experience because like they are so popular now, and you just get to hang out with them.
No, it's awesome. And I'm very fortunate they've given me this opportunity because they are the nicest guys and they're one of the smartest guys in sports media because some of the things they think of off the top of their head is unbelievable. If you scroll down PFT's Twitter, some of these jokes and references he makes and how he intertwines them to NFL football is unbelievable.
Yeah,
It's awesome.
that's something I noticed just watching the show is just like they're smart. Like they come off as kind of like just kind of jocks, I guess. Not
Right.
really. Obviously they're successful men, but just like their creative minds, like you said, just go, they go with each other. And that's just from my point of view watching the show. I can't even imagine what it is to be with them. So does he ever take his sunglasses off?
Yes, he does. It's obviously he doesn't live and die by them, but yeah.
That is
But
hilarious.
I respect the grind. How he's gone this long, might as well not look back. And
Yeah.
he's basically, I would say he's gotten used to it at this point because he's been in basically any setting possible with those shades on. So he plays
Right.
ping pong in them, he goes to games in them, and he does the podcast in them. So it's awesome.
Okay, so I asked you about those two. I obviously got to ask you about Dave Portnoy. And you work up in the office, right, in New York?
Yeah, I'm here in New York right now.
Okay,
Yeah.
so just obviously kind of hit on that a little bit. Like he's one of America's, public figures right now. Just kind of tell me some stuff about working with him or for him.
Yeah, I mean, Dave, of course, for those who are on social media at all, you know who Dave Portnoy is. Of course, doing amazing things right now with the Barstool Fund, helping raise money and saving small businesses during the pandemic. But yeah, he obviously has worked his butt off to get to where he is today. He started Barstool all by himself, handed out newspapers in Boston, and look what he's created now, one of the biggest sports media empires in the world. So you got to respect what he's done on that end. And yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah, and kind of watching the show, the stool scenes, right? That kind of gives me like the Office vibes because it's
Right.
kind of just like more of just like a laid back environment, but obviously like you got to be on your shit. Just like what is it like? Are the cameras always rolling and then they'll just edit stuff, or are there days where like there's no cameras? Just like what's the whole experience like with like the things that people see from a consumer point of view?
Yeah, so that's a great comparison you made. Basically, like it's a TV show because
Literally.
no matter what, if something's happening, there's 3 or 4 guys, camera guys, whose full-time role is a stool scenes editor. So they're walking around with cameras and making sure they get clips of anything either contentious or funny or stupid that happens because that they put that together for the Friday shows as we watch.
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of people watch. So yeah, that's definitely a cool part of it that you got to be careful what you say because you never know what's being filmed. It's like Big Brother.
For sure. Okay, so the stool stream stuff, you're the broadcaster for that now too, right? Yeah, when I first saw that, like that's a genius idea. Just that room, like, so what are some of the like most like the best moments that you've seen in there? Because obviously when you go in there, you're all shooting the shit. Just kind of take me inside that a little bit too.
Yeah, so stool streams, for those who don't understand what it is, it's we go live twice a week, and it's an interactive broadcast where fans can win real money. So there's this app called the Play Barstool app. You can download it on the App Store and Apple. And then I'll be the broadcaster. We'll have games such as Jenga, ping pong, and cornhole, where Barstool people will play against each other. Then you at home can pick winners for free, totally free. You can win real money if you go 6 for 6 on the questions. So there's been some funny moments. This guy Frank the Tank, he always screams anytime he plays Jenga and brings
that dude is hilarious to watch.
Props. He's a lot of fun. Glenny Balls is always a hit when he's playing Jenga. And not to brag, but I may be 6-0 in ping pong.
Respect.
So those are always fun. Those are always fun too.
Dude, that Frank guy, when you guys hired him, oh my God, he cracks me up. He's good shit.
Yeah.
Okay, so these are more of just like, so you obviously have been in sports media for what, like, obviously you've been working your way up and you have, congrats, first of all.
Thank you.
And I'm kind of curious, just like a conversation we can have is like, sports media, I feel like, everyone can do it now. Like you can start your own thing, and grow it, because obviously there's all these, gurus out there who you can watch and just copy them basically. So when you started, what were you writing, or were you doing video? Because I know for me, I was kind of scared to do video at first. Obviously now you just put out whatever you want, but kind of talk about like the evolution that you've seen, sports media with the rise of technology and social media, since you were, younger.
Right. So right now, literally all you need is a phone and you can start making a podcast. You're making a podcast right now. There's not really an excuse anymore to say, can't do this, can't do that, because everything, the platform is there for you to start doing a podcast, talk into your phone and discuss whatever you want, and you publish it. And things like that with computers, you can write blogs on it any way you want. Anyone can create a website, podcasting, even for play-by-play, for practice. When I was in school, sometimes during the summer when there wasn't much going on, I would pull up an NFL game on my phone and just start calling it just to get reps in and get better. I'm a big reps guy. I'm sure you can relate to it with basketball too, because if you're not practicing, there's simply no way to get better. The same thing applies with play-by-play broadcasting. It's not something you just hop on the court on or hop on the headset and just be good at. It takes a lot of work and practice.
Right. Yeah, no, that's a good point. So obviously John Rothstein, like you have a John Rothstein one-liner, Jake Marsh the future. Just tell me how did that start and how did you get that?
So again, very fortunate to have that. And I'm sure a lot of your listeners love college basketball. They know who John Rothstein is. And he has a one-liner for a lot of teams around the country. He's got to get one for Winthrop. Does he have one?
Not yet, but I hope he does soon.
Yeah, if you guys keep winning, he'll definitely have one. So yeah, I met John. So Big Cat set me up with him about November 2019. He went on part of my take, and then when I was broadcasting for Vermont, John had mentioned he's going to the Vermont St. John's game in New York City. So Big Cat gave me his contact info, and I had him on my pregame show before the Vermont St. John's game. Then he happened to sit right next to me on press row. Had him on the pregame show. He listened to me. I guess he liked my stuff. And then I started tweeting at him throughout the season about Vermont. And he calls me the future now because he thinks, and I hope he's right, that I have a long tenure as a play-by-play broadcaster for college basketball. And I hope he's right, because that's one of my career goals, to call a Final Four one day. So we'll see what happens.
Bro. Yeah, no, that's legendary. What do you think about Stuffed?
Stuffed is awesome. If you look closely, if you look at the background, there's a bunch of pictures. He has a picture from the Vermont St. John's game of me and him with the headsets on, front and center, right behind his head. Yeah. It's like it's Jimmy V, some other big names from college basketball, than just me and him, which is awesome.
No, that's sick, bro. So does he live up there by you guys? He lives up there, right?
He lives in New York City. Yeah, he always tweets about Bar Coastal, his favorite wing. That's in the Upper East Side in New York City. So
no, facts. Yeah. Okay, so just let's talk about this basketball season just a little bit. Who are some teams you like? Obviously, everyone's gonna say the Gonzagas and Baylor's, but like if you check your phone, see what games are on tonight, like who are some teams you enjoy just watching?
So tonight, we're recording this on Wednesday night. Texas has a chance to win the whole thing. Greg Brown, and then what's his name? Matt Coleman hit the buzzer beater to win the Maui.
Yep.
Andrew Jones hit the buzzer beater to beat West Virginia last weekend. They're a team that I guess not came out of nowhere, but didn't have national championship expectations, I don't think, at the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
Shaka Smart has hair now. They can win it all. Michigan with the star freshman Hunter Dickinson, they're undefeated. And then on the mid-major side, not just because you're on Winthrop, but you guys are capable, if you are fortunate to get in the tournament, of pulling off a first round upset or two. I mean, who knows? I mean,
Yeah.
I got to check bracketology. Do you know what Leonard already has you guys as right now?
He told me, I talked to him the other day. He told me he has us as a 12 right now, playing
Which is
against
prime upset spot. Yeah,
12-5.
against Oregon.
Yep, 12-5. I live for that game.
Yeah, Vermont last year, if there was a tournament, we probably would have been a 12 or a 13 seed and had a chance for an upset. Obviously, it sucks to
Yeah,
get robbed, but if you guys get that 5-12 game, who knows?
right. For you, I know, we talked about all the Barstool stuff and the great job you have, but like, what are you mentioned some goals of calling a Final Four game, and just kind of tell me like your mentality right now as you just grind your way, up the ladders.
No, for sure. My long-term goal is to call a Final Four on TV one day. Super Bowl, anything at the network level would be awesome. But I love what I'm doing at Barstool right now. Even though it's Jenga, it might seem weird, but it helps me get better. And like I
Right.
said earlier, it's reps.
Yep.
It's helping you. I'm doing prep. I'm learning nuts and bolts of play-by-play, on-camera skills, interviewing skills. It all helps. So again, in the pandemic right now, it's very easy to complain, but you also got to be fortunate.
Yeah.
You're still able to play college basketball. I'm still able to do what I love and broadcast
Hmm.
events and podcasts with Big Cat and PFT. So
Yeah,
we'll see what happens, but it's all good things.
for sure.